So in this idea worth acting on, I want to explore the idea of a currency based on value. So in order to kind of do that and give some context, let's look at some of the existing currencies that we've kind of created over time. So one, we have created currencies based on things, and we've always done it with objects. So, for example, if we want to travel, and we used to trade chickens, let's say we had 3 loaves of bread would be worth, well, let's say 4 loaves of bread would be worth one chicken. 4 loaves of bread equals 1 chicken. So let's say that this is kind of the way that we barter things. Chickens, so many breads for a chicken, so many bottles of olive oil for a chicken, so many hours of massage for a chicken, etc., etc. And so let's say chicken is a common denominator of exchange. And so the trouble is, if you want to get on a boat and go to the US from Greece, you know, do you want to carry your chickens? And so what if you want to go to a bank and give them your 30 chickens, and they write I have received 30 chickens, IOU, and then you go, you know, you take your boat or plane, you take your boat, and then you give the piece of paper to the bank in the other country, and they give you back 30 chickens. So now you have 30 chickens in the place that you want your 30 chickens. So it's I guess an efficient way of transporting value. And maybe they have a buy and sell. So I received I have received 30 chickens. You can have 28 chickens wherever you go. And this is a little bit about the buying and selling of currency in individual countries, because the bank will buy a currency, like it progressed on from these IOUs, or direct loans and giving of objects, to currency that represents object, not just a direct IOU for 30 chickens, but I will buy your chickens for $30, and you can give your $30 to the bank, and they will give you they will give you 1,000 Thai baht. In another bank, or in this bank, and you can take the Thai baht and then buy perhaps 30 chickens, perhaps 28, but when they transfer the money back and forth, it's always at a slight discount to cover well, that's just how banks make money. Even on PayPal, where the money is supposedly free, PayPal gives you a bad exchange rate, and Western Union gives you a terrible exchange rate. So you can, like, for $5 on Western Union, you can send money anywhere. But what if I physically take my five, let's say I take $1 to a money changer on the street, I'm going to get 33 baht. But if I send $1 to someone in Thailand via Western Union, they're only going to get 31 baht. So it works out to like another 5% commission on top. So this is how banks and Western Union, etc., make money, is the combination of fees plus percentage to translate value in one country to value in another country. And it used to be that all money began with a valuable object or service. And it could be anything. chickens, sheep, a house. So I could build a house. Then go to a bank who would give me an instrument that was worth to show the value of that house. And then I could take that document to another country and get similar value of some kind that someone else would build me a house for. And in this way, translate, first of all, create value, and two, transform it. And three, recreate it. And the different mediums of value have been gold initially. Sometimes shells. Sometimes chickens. And what I want to explore is the benefit of creating a micro currency. Because this is what creates poverty. When you and I want to work or create value. So we have a pretty efficient system as it is. However, currently, let's say you make me a beautiful painting. And give it to me. Now this may be an incredible painting, but I have no US dollars. To give you. But let's say this painting gives me 20% happiness. I feel so happy about this painting. But I don't have, let's say, $1,200 is the amount of happiness the painting gives to me. Meaning, if I had to increase my happiness by 20% in any other way, you know, going on a trip or whatever, I would have to spend around $1,200 to do it. But the issue is, I don't have $1,200 to give the painter, to give them an equal amount of value. Now I could do something for them. Such as clean their house. Now, this is a an acknowledgement, or this is a way that creates wealth. And there's two forms of wealth. One is you take $1, you move it over to here, and you've not created any wealth. You've just, this person has one less dollar, and this one has a plus dollar. So you create wealth by moving it. So if you are this person, you now have $1. So you've created $1. But you've created it because this person now has no dollar. So you've moved $1 from here to here. This person has $1, this person doesn't have $1. So that's one way of creating wealth. And it's not actually creating wealth in the larger sense, it's moving wealth to benefit the person receiving it. But there's another form of creating wealth, which is that this person works hard to create a painting and gives it to this person. And before they created the painting and gave it, there was no painting in the world. It did not exist. Now, this person who created the painting is creating wealth, a wealth of beauty, a wealth of art in this case. This person could also grow a carrot. They could carve a wooden bowl. Now, the person who creates value, now to create value, you're expending energy to find something, to grow something, to transform something. Like this bit of wood had abstract value, but it became valuable to this person over here in particular when it was turned into a bowl, because this person needs to eat or wants to eat out of something, and this person over here, well, they cannot eat out of a block of wood, but they can eat out of a bowl. And so the person that creates value transforms something or finds something. Maybe she walks out in the forest and finds a diamond laying in the ground. Well, the walking around looking and finding is creating value, because let's say this person wants to then take that diamond and cut it, cut the diamond into a shape and then give it to someone else. So there's creating value, there's giving value, there's transferring value from one person to another. But if this person over here does not have the money, they can either do a barter, they can give something back that's valuable. And this creates wealth. I'll give you 10 back massages and you can give me your bowl. That's creating wealth. And the issue is that if neither of them has $1, so neither of them has $1, they're both creating wealth, and let's say the wealth is not in a format that is useful, meaning I don't want a massage and I don't want a bowl, but they are useful to someone. And the issue becomes then, if neither has $1 and they're both creating value, how to bring, in a local context, how to bring value into that world and make it easy to create. Now, I want to explore this in a sense of a microcurrency for a community of 1,000 people. And it kind of goes like this. So this is the community, and there's 1,000 people. Now, the more value this 1,000 people creates, the more valuable this community is. So here's what I mean. So in this other community of 1,000 people, they do absolutely nothing. They don't give, they don't sing, they don't carve, they don't do anything at all. Over here, every single person teaches, carves, gives, writes, sings, and does, you know, and not only does it, but does it, you know, 12 hours a day, does something valuable 12 hours a day. Well, in a matter of 1 year, this group of 1,000 people may have beautiful buildings, beautiful art, a collection of song recordings, the finest bread, the finest cheeses, even wine. And they've created an enormous amount of value. And they did not need a single dollar. They grew the food. They created it out of nothing. And this group over here has nothing. Obviously, the kind of community over here is a very attractive community to anyone wanting to join a community. If you want to join a community where everyone's half dead and has done nothing, or a community where everyone is creating a lot of value, you want to come here. And this is actually, and the more balanced the value, the more attractive it is. So here's what I mean. So let's say in this community over here, they only mined gold and created beautiful architecture, but they did not learn language. So they had the most beautiful buildings, but you couldn't talk to anyone. And over here, they had good buildings, not the most beautiful, but they also learned language, and they also learned cooking. And so it was good cooking and good that there's a principle of balance that says that, you know, like, it's great to have the best food in the world, but if you've got zero to drink and you're going to die, you only, at the most you want to be there as, you know, one day. But in that day you'll have the, you know, the absolute best food in the world. So there's a principle of balance. There's a principle of value that is based on how many people are actively creating value. But there's also a principle of honor. And this is what is difficult about our current monetary system, where you cannot create new value. The principle is what is honored. So if you want to give me a massage and I want to buy an iPad and I only have $300, and most people buy the iPad more than the massage, then the massage is not honored as much in that value hierarchy. Now, this is part of a larger hierarchy of kind of media perception, where in order to ensure that we get that money, we're going to have everyone in any community likes to be liked by that community. It's a need to belong. So in a media-rich culture, if a company can manufacture lots of iPads for $30 a unit and then spend, you know, $100 a unit advertising, a $300 price tag, they may be able to sway people to buy the iPad. The price goes up 100 with all that swaying, and then there's the massage. So this is actually a case where where Apple is creating a negative value. What I mean by that is they're spending, in this case, $100 to advertise a $30 unit to sell it for $300. And in the process, the advertising, which is not creating any value for the community, it's creating a perception of value, but the reality is that every minute someone is watching an ad, they're not writing a book or gardening or they're not producing anything anytime they're consuming an advertisement, which means that media or advertising is actually creating negative value for that community. And if it's distorting perception in a way that does not lead to well-being, it's creating a double negative value, because if people's attention span and presence and interest in social engagement, which actually increase well-being, goes down in order to as a result of watching advertisements where it just took them out of circulation of creating value in the community, in order to distort value with fear and shame and guilt, and now they have spent money, there's been a manipulation in that process to spend money on something other than what would have created more well-being. Because this is the difference between service and manipulation. If I can lock you up in a room and hypnotize you to do something with your time, with your money, that gives me more and leaves you with less, it's a manipulation, a betrayal, usury, and the value of the community will go down. If everyone is participating in this, the value of the community will go down. You'll have a community full of iPads with no one bringing joy and well-being to one another in perhaps an addictive cycle. But addiction does not bring value to the community. I.e., if you have 1,000 people baking bread, making cheese, making soup, creating art, cutting fresh flowers, cleaning the house, or you have 1,000 people drinking alcohol and throwing the bottles on the ground because they're too tired to get up. At the end of the day, you're going to have 1,000 drunk people in a dirty house and no food and no value, or you're going to have 1,000 people with soup and fresh bread, etc. So the value goes up and down based on the activity. And in a situation like this, the question becomes kind of how to balance freedom with well-being. So this is why I think freedom in some ways is overvalued relative to science and well-being. You know, in the United States, we're proud of saying this is a free country. And it is. There's freedom to manipulate, freedom to lie, freedom to addict. But this is not the be-all and end-all, to be free to reduce one's own and others' lives and take it on a downward journey. That's, if you follow this path too far, there will be no country and no people touting freedom, because they've used their freedom to grind themselves and others into the dirt. So freedom is not the ultimate value. Well-being and love is the ultimate value, and discipline, vision, science, data, care, kindness, and freedom needs to serve these things rather than be a servant to these things. So if freedom serves well-being, love, and respects the data, if freedom serves kindness, freedom will bring more efficiency than not. But if freedom serves self-hatred and the hatred of others, freedom will destroy everything that's valuable. So going back to the sense of how to create a microcurrency to make and honor value for 1,000 people. I'd like to suggest that a currency which is a symbol of value and medium of exchange be considered as follows. That value equals well-being, that creating value equals creating well-being, and that well-being equals experience and data. I say both because you have value and then you have two parts. Over here you have emotion, joy, desire. And over here you have data. What I mean is, if someone is obese and you give them an ice cream cone, they may feel gratitude and joy, but the data is saying that for that gratitude and joy, they're going to pay a high price later. As a result, the gift, quote unquote, of an ice cream cone to an obese person is perhaps creating negative value over the course of a year. And a really accurate data set that includes what's going on with each person has got to take that into account. You can't create, you can't reward someone for creating long-term negative well-being, i.e. giving someone with allergies nuts that taste good, giving, you've got to look at a balance of experience and data. On the other hand, for example, if you can create a similar experience of joy, plus supported by the data, this is highly valuable. So you got really high value. And if you can create something that is supported by the data, for example, jogging, where the experience of jogging is annoying, but the data supports that it's good for long-term lifetime health, there's more value than if, in some ways, it kind of partly depends on an equation of how valuable on the data level, how long will it last? So longevity, intensity of impact, so if I save your foot from being amputated, and that lasts the rest of your life, and it's a major deal, and you are able to double your well-being, that would be a very high value, a very high value activity. Similarly, if I was able to avoid the accident that created that, the need of a foot amputation, that would be even higher value than saving the foot. However, during the operation, the experience is not good. However, if I was able to have a good bedside manner, it's more valuable than being stressed and telling you to shut up. So experience and data, and the experience short time. In other words, if I traumatized you by yelling at you during the operation, and you were left with flashbacks and couldn't look me in the eye for a lifetime, and on the other level, my leg was saved for a lifetime, you could have a lifetime of fear and a lifetime that is more productive during that fear. And the question is, on a well-being level, which is worse? Would you rather be an amputee without any fear, or have a good leg with fear? And one might easily say that the person who had an amputated foot who adjusted but has no fear, because there's no PTSD around it, might be better off than the person with fear and a leg, but because they're terrified of a lot of different things from trauma, they're not using the leg that much, and they're afraid, which is a miserable life. And so there's these are some of the distinctions and complexities that bring into real value that are in many times not reflected in a dollar and cents price in our current system, and that can start to be reflected in more and more ways in a community sense, where we care enough about the people involved to know the impact. So here's a recipe for 1,000 people in community
to create well-being and a currency. So one, data is used to assess which activities will create the most value for the 1,000 people over time. Two, data is used to update those projections. In other words, if we project that our community will be 20% happier if we switch to organic, healthy foods and eliminate all fast foods in the community, and we therefore do that, and then we do data adjustments a year later and find that it's only gone up 5%, then the value of that activity has to be reassessed. In other words, you use the best projection that you can based on data from other people in our life experience, and then we update those projections with reality all the time, looking at metrics of well-being that include physical health, emotional health, mental health, spiritual health. And what we're looking for is peak well-being. In as many dimensions as possible. And for as long as possible. So, So when we see that people in the community are generating the value that the community is growing from, we honor that with a value assessment. And this honors the fact that 100 people of these thousands could contribute 50% of the value that is generated in that community. That could be because some of, 20% are infants, and could be done by the fact that another 20% are lazy and tired or sick, and another 20% are inaccurate, meaning they think something will help, but it doesn't. And this is this is the in a currency or medium of exchange, the 100 people would receive more currency. mostly to support them in contributing value and to honor them for the value they have created. So, so here's a way that it could work. And just to let you know, this all started with a sense that the way that money is given and spent is often out of sync with value, one, and two, that there are people in our world and community who give enormous value and who have no money because the value they give away and to is to people who don't have money to pay for it and who are often don't have the education and awareness to know how valuable the gift is. And so this is a way to kind of respond to that situation. So, number one, community defines value based on measuring well-being. Both short and long term. The community creates currency to reflect that potential value. And three, awards that digital currency based on action. Four, records the process and measures and then measures follow-up data. So over a course of a year, a community might identify 100 to 500 actions that could create value within the community, and then award, based on the proportion of value created, award digital currency to those creating the most, well, in proportion to those creating the most mental, emotional, physical, well-being, and sharing it. And this is on all levels. optimal social interactions, resolving things, being honest. You look at the full circle, and you have a kind, honest grandmother who says encouraging things to everyone who walks by, who smiles, who increases the brightness of people's day by 10% for 30 people who walk by her every day. And that grandmother is creating extraordinary emotional well-being for those people and should receive a value that is proportionate to the well-being created. And it needs to be I think the trick that, because I'm kind of riffing and kind of creating along as I go, is to see like how that would be rewarded. So let's say we have a grandmother. Let's say the community has an assessment of mental, physical, financial, emotional, and spiritual health. And they have a kind of an objective assessment of that on a yearly or quarterly basis. Let's say quarterly basis. Is the health of the community going up and down, and by what amount and by what cause? What is doing that? And that those who are responsible for it going up or down would receive or take away value. And that this would yeah. Yeah, that this mental, physical, emotional, etc., up and down would reflect the currency of the community, and that the community currency would have a cash value in terms of other currencies based on who would want to buy in, because the reality is that if you have 1,000 people living together in a beautiful lifestyle, in which they are much happier and healthier than the general population around that 1,000 people, you will have people trying to buy in. And if the price is buying into local currency, by bringing things of value, then that currency could be much higher than a US dollar. It could take, $3 US to buy into one unit of well-being, or it could be less, or it could be the same. Thus allowing people to move in and out of the community, but obviously more people would be wanting to come in as visitors or etc. than out if there was a lot of happiness and well-being within the community. And so I would say that the currency would be called value. And we'd have units of value. And the key would be basically to how to do the calculations and not get so lost in that, because things like installing a lawn and then you're having a valuable conversation in the lawn, might be valuable all the time, but you might not record, the higher quality of value of the grass. And then there is a certain limit amount of time, but there's not a certain limit on the amount of value. So I think it would need fiddling with, but and it might need to even have several different dimensions. The currency might need to have, there might need to be an emotional currency, E value, a mental currency, M value, and a physical currency, and that may be the process of paying for things, that and there may be a way that they translate based on the needs of the community, i.e. if you got no food, but you're really smart and you're emotionally in bliss, the food value starts to become more important. And if you can't grow enough food in the community fast enough, that might mean that the medium of exchange with the US dollar to buy food starts to become a higher priority, so that someone choosing to sell their mountain bike is giving more, in order to buy food, is giving more value to the community than someone who's coming up with the latest chant to be in more emotional bliss, because the bliss comes down if people start dying of starvation. So there's a little bit of kind of creativity in this area. But the real thing is to start playing with this based on data about well-being in the short and the long term. And one of my ideas is the idea of just being able to award value and create currency out of nothing. Now this could have very high inflation, where anyone could award value. So, you know, that you could generate a a unit of value, and I award that value. And based on how long I think it will last, and how much and in what areas. And then it can be reassessed as well. And these transactions are recorded. So recorded transactions and centralized and reviewed monthly, and reconciled with actual well-being. Actual well-being, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And that this is the way that we go forward and guide growth in the community. With the goal of value for all that is co-created by all to the best of our abilities. And I think this would get to the issue of inflation, because inflation would be more projected value than actual value. So what's the actual value is one's well-being assessment. In other words, if one awards 1,000 units of value, but one's well-being is the same, then that's inflation. And so that has to be reassessed to maybe 0 value or a maintenance level of value. Maybe that maintaining one's existing value is worth maybe 200 units of value. And so this is a complex currency arrangement. But the bottom line is that love, kindness, and well-being over time equals value. And that when you do something new that increases the value for oneself and for others, it creates value. And when we share and give that money, the money we earn from that to others, we transfer value.